So these are true crime trading cards, and I wanted to show these to you because I've done Pokemon cards and Mary's done some cards, but I thought these are just completely interesting. So I'm pretty excited. I have 5 packets here to open, and I also have a set already to show you some. So if you want to start collecting these, um, the True Crime 2s are still really easy to get your hands on if you want to start collecting them. The True Crime 1 set, the first set, this is pretty hard to find. And Crime and Punishment are fairly easy to find. So then there's another set that's like FBI's Most Wanted, but I don't have any of those. But I thought I'd start with these and see what I have. And if you watch my channel, you know I'm pretty interested in true crime and mysteries, so this should be interesting. And if you came to this video, then this should be interesting for the both of us. So without further ado, let's see what we have here. Oh, there's a 3-ring binder you can get with it. Probably cost a fortune at this point. Or you can just go to Dollar General and buy your own 3-ring binder. So let's see. Charles Schmidt. Born in 1942, 22-year-old Charles Howard Schmidt seemed a normal Tucson, Arizona college student who excelled at sports, especially gymnastics. Although intelligent and handsome, he felt inadequate and was deeply disturbed that at 5'3" he was below average in height. Hoping to present a more virile appearance, he wore oversized cowboy boots stuffed with newspapers to make himself taller, dyed his hair black, and created a false mole on his face with putty and grease. He wanted desperately to be noticed. In 1964, he and 2 friends, Mary French and John Saunders, that's a French and Saunders has a weird coincidence, enjoyed a typical night of drinking and cruising. Schmidt expressed his long-felt but hidden desire to kill a girl, and so the 3 picked up a 15-year-old acquaintance. The friends drove to a secluded spot where Mary and John watched Schmidt first attack, then bludgeon the teenager to death. The following year, Schmidt's 17-year-old girlfriend and younger sister disappeared. Schmidt openly boasted of their murders and showed the bodies of the strangled girls to a friend. Horrified and believing his own life was in danger, the friend reported Schmidt to the police. In 1965, Schmidt, French, and Saunders were arrested. For turning state's evidence, French received a 5-year sentence, and Saunders received life imprisonment. Schmidt got a 55-year prison term for the first murder, and death sentences altered to life in prison when the Supreme Court overturned the death penalty for the subsequent killings. In 1972, he and a fellow inmate escaped and held 4 people hostage on a ranch near Tempe, Arizona. Recaptured, Schmidt was stabbed to death in prison in 1975. Wow. The next card is Christine Fowling. The panhandle of North Florida was a place of deprivation and poverty, its misery keenly felt by Christine Slaughter. Born there in 1963, her father was 65 and her mother was 16 and already had 1 daughter. 2 more children followed, but her father denied their legitimacy. Slaughter's mother frequently disappeared for days, leaving the children untended. Her father died when she was still young, and she and 1 sister were adopted by Jesse and Dolly Fowling, a well-off childless couple. Despite the love and frequent religious teachings of the Fowlings, Christine, dim-witted, obese, and epileptic, was a severely troubled child who tortured pets, was a compulsive liar, and desperately sought attention. She wed at 14 in 1977. The marriage lasted 6 weeks and was followed by a period of severe hypochondria and self-inflicted wounding. Fallon began babysitting in 1980. She rushed one of her charges, a 2-year-old girl, to the hospital after a fall. The child died, and an autopsy listed a blunt instrument as the cause of death, but the report never reached police. In 1981, 2 more children died while in Fowling's custody, but this time doctors found no evidence of foul play. Other children she babysat experienced near-death traumas, so to stop what she called the curse, Fowling began caring for the elderly. Her first client died the day she started work. In 1982, after 2 more babies died in her care, police finally arrested Fowling. In a taped confession she called the unsuspected killing smotheration. She described how she slowly suffocated the children. She was convicted of 3 murders and sentenced to life imprisonment in Florida. My goodness, these are the real deal. These are grim stories. James Huberty, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of him. This is the McDonald's mass shooting guy. Very crazy man. And I remember when this happened. I think it was the 80s. Let's see. 1984. I remember that was just a terrible, awful thing. There were 2 high-profile restaurant attacks in the 80s. There was one in a Luby's cafeteria, and then there was this one at McDonald's. And I remember this was on the news a lot. Jack the Ripper. Oh my goodness, I got a real good card here. I mean, look at the map behind him and everything. I'll read this one, but then I'm gonna continue to sort of go through them a little quickly and just kind of pick and choose ones to read. In 1888, an anonymous killer took the lives of 5 English prostitutes and forever became the symbol of evil and murder. The enigma began when a prostitute, known to be an alcoholic, was found with her throat slit on August 31st. Police determined she had not put up a struggle. On her lower abdomen were several ragged wounds. The next victim was found mutilated about the lower body. Next came a double murder in which the first victim suffered no mutilations but the second did. Police theorized the killer had been interrupted during the first crime and had therefore committed the second. The last murder occurred on November 9th. The victim was found in her room, which opened onto a back alleyway, and was mutilated so as to be unrecognizable. At this point, the serial killing ceased, never to be resumed. London police interviewed many possible witnesses and traced the movements of the victims prior to their deaths. By almost all witness accounts, the perpetrator was said to be in his 30s, 5'5", of medium build with broad shoulders, fair-skinned, with dark hair and a full mustache, yet police could not locate him. Scotland Yard investigated several suspects, but none were charged. They were Montague John Druitt, who was said to suffer from sexual insanity and drowned himself days after the last murder, Michael Odstrog, a Russian known for his violent behavior, and Aaron Kosminski, a schizophrenic Jew who had vanished. Speculation later surfaced concerning His Royal Highness Prince Albert Victor, called Eddie, a grandson of Queen Victoria, who later died of syphilis. The actual killer has never been identified. This is, so I guess the dilemma as we go through this video, and the question we should ask is this trivializing? Is this too over the top to make these cards, to make take these real awful crimes and put them on trading cards? That is a really interesting question, and that's something, to think about as we watch this video. And that's why maybe this is sort of a obscure type of trading card. Death to Mustache Pete's. This is a reference to Lucky Luciano and the crime syndicate, the mafia, killing the older Sicilians who had immigrated to the U.S., particularly Salvatore Maranzano and Masseria, the other one. There was 2 so-called Mustache Pete's who were controlling New York. Frankie Yale, a gangster in Chicago, suspected of killing Big Jim Colosimo. And I think he got killed himself. I think he got murdered. Giuseppe Zangara, I've heard him. He was he tried to shoot President Roosevelt, and he ended up killing Mayor Anton Cermak. That was the 1930s, 1933. John Dillinger. Wow, I definitely have some famous gangsters on these cards. The gangster's gangster, John Dillinger, a bank robber, never 100% certain he killed anybody. Uh, just a flashy, the probably the most famous of all of the Depression era gangsters. Schultz, another famous Depression era gangster. He was a mobster in New York. He was ran numbers rackets, another vice in New York, and was known for his violence and his cheapness and his ability to get out of conviction. Was shot in the Palace Chop House. Um, Earl Leonard Nelson, the Gorilla Killer, is what they called him. A terribly, terribly awful murderer of older women. If you want to investigate this story, it's not for the faint of heart. It's just a terrible, terrible story about a very, very disturbed young man who particularly killed landladies he had. Albert DeSalvo, I think he's the Boston Strangler. Um, yeah, but there's also some dispute if he really was. And Starkweather and Fugate, very, very famous crime spree couple. Kind of modern, well, not modern day, 1950s version of Bonnie and Clyde, except much more ignorant. Starkweather was probably had a very low IQ. Fugate was underage. They went through a killing rampage, starting with her father. Interestingly, even though he was a murderer and all kinds of awful things, and he imitated James Dean, and if you listen to an audio recording of his voice, he sounded like a child talking. It's kind of almost sad when you realize that he was a sub. His intellect was just terribly low. There's a movie called Badlands, I think, with Martin Sheen. And there's been several movies treatments of this. So all in all of these are pretty well known criminals in this set. Now I'm gonna go into this Crime and Punishment pack here. This is slightly different looking. The trial of Sirhan Sirhan. Sirhan Sirhan was the man who shot and killed Robert Kennedy in the. It was in Los Angeles. Famous hotel. I think they've closed it down. Now here's a checklist. You can see there's a lot of cards in this set. This is the trial of Lynette Squeaky Fromm, one of Charles Manson's disciples. You can see they're kind of manhandling her out of the courtroom. The trial of Patricia Hurst. Here's an interesting story. Patty Hurst was the granddaughter of William Randolph Hearst. She was born into money and a very, rich debutante. She was kidnapped by the Symbolize Liberation Army. It was like a counterculture terrorist organization back in the 60s, and they brainwashed her into joining them on bank robberies. Well, in all of the wisdom of the establishment, they decided to arrest her and put her on trial. And a lot of people spoke out saying that, John Wayne included, saying, how come we can let politicians pretend that they have lapses in memory when it's convenient for them, but a little 20-year-old girl, or I think she was in fact a teenager, we're going to throw the book at her after she'd been horribly brainwashed and mistreated. So they did finally let her off. The trial of Charles Manson. That's just a picture of one of the crime scenes. And I'm not sure which one's that's supposed to be. Another double of the Sirhan one. A double of the Patty Hurst card. The Trial of William and Emily Harris. This also had to do with Patty Hurst, and I'm not quite familiar with that one. Interesting. I'm getting a lot of doubles. I'm kind of disappointed in this set. The Trial of Charles Manson, another one. I think that's supposed to be Sharon Tate. Another Charles Manson trial card. These look like court drawings. They might very well be. The Trial of Wayne Williams, the Atlanta child killer. I hope this one isn't full of doubles. Oh, this is the Trial of Patty Hurst. It's a different card, at least. This is the Trial of Charles Manson, a different card showing the Helter Skelter that was misspelled. The Trial of Sirhan, a different card this time. Another Sirhan card showing him, the defendant. The Trial of Sarah Jane Moore. And she joined the army. She had a high IQ. This also ties with the Patty Hearst crime. Interesting. Another Patty Hearst trial card. Another Sirhan double. This is another Sirhan. Another Sirhan card showing an expert witness. Another Squeaky Fromm card. The Trial of William and Emily Harris. And another, The Trial of Charles Manson, showing an expert witness. These are interesting. It's altogether different than the true crime ones. This is from the second series of true crime cards. And here we have the Battle of Sunset Strip. In 1947, Los Angeles Mafia boss Jack Dragna assigned Jimmy Fratiano, or Jimmy the Weasel, to kill Mickey Cohen so Dragna could take over Cohen's Sunset Strip gambling joints, which were in unincorporated LA County, free from harassment by the newly reformed Los Angeles City Police. Fratiano befriended Cohen, and on August 18, 1948, he and his family visited Cohen in his office behind his Sunset Strip haberdashery. Jimmy shook Mickey's hand and left. As Fratiano walked down the street, Dragna hitmen raced into the building. They blew Hookie Rothman's face off with a shotgun blast. 2 other Cohen gunmen were wounded in a battle in Cohen's office. Cohen's fetish for cleanliness saved him. He was in the bathroom washing Fratiano's germs off of his hand during the attack. Wow. Jimmy the Weasel. Paul Knowles. Just a nasty murder. Donald Evans. Vincent the Chin. Gigante. He was the one, I think, who shot Frank Costello in the head. Frank survived back in the 50s. Charlie Lucky in Havana. That's Lucky Luciano when he went to the Havana conference. Right before they decided to put a hit out on Bugsy Siegel. So that's where he was meeting because he'd already been evicted from the U.S. Here's another Battle of the Sunset Strip card. Virgil Peterson. The commission's director during the Kefauver Committee years. The Kefauver Committee. If you want to know about that, there's some recordings of it on YouTube. They interviewed gangsters like Frank Costello and Joey Adonis, Virginia Hill, and stuff. It was sort of the Godfather Part 2 was inspired by that. They had a Kefauver section of the movie. Here's the checklist. Axeman of New Orleans. This is an old story from the 1800s, or maybe it was like 1912, I think. No, 1918. Well, anyway, basically this axe murder terrorized New Orleans, and then he kept attacking, and then finally he sent a message that he would, if anyone played jazz in their house, he wouldn't attack them. So one night, everyone played jazz from their houses. So it probably sounded great that night. Everyone was playing jazz and there weren't any attacks. Gore and Waterfield. No, just terrible criminals. Mary Beth Tinning. No, child murderer. Let's see what's in the next set here. Like I said, I'm still torn as to how appropriate these are, or how tacky they are, or how educational they are. It's hard to say. I think, depending on who's handling them, and to keep in the back of your head that you're dealing with real life. These are real crimes. These are real people. And to respect that. Paul the Waiter, Risha. Chicago Gangster. Nick Circella, or Coachella. New York Gangster. Edward O'Hare Sr. That seems like an airport name. Estelle Carey. Estelle Carey, born in 1909, was the girlfriend of Nick Dean, also known as Nick Coachella. This guy. So she was a gangster girl. Antoinette Caravetta Nitti. That must be Frank Nitty's wife. Yep. Kidnapping of Jake Greasy Thumb Guzik. If you watched Boardwalk Empire, Jake Guzik was one of the characters that worked for Al Capone. He's a real life person. A mathematician. Anthony Big Tuna Ricardo, one of the people who was involved in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, one of the gunmen. Eddie Jones. Chicago gangster. James Reagan. He ran a wire service. Llewellyn Humphreys. He was a mobster in Al Capone's gang. Virgil Peterson again. Charles Fischnetti. Cousin of Al Capone. Bill Drury. He was a cop type of gangsters. Dan Tubbo Gilbert. Another cop. And then here's my my stack, and I don't know if so we've seen some of these. Eileen Wuornos, the movie Monsters based off her. The South African actress played her. I can't quite remember her name at the moment. The Hall Mills case, a very interesting case. That's the pig lady. It was a preacher and the choir singer found dead under the crabapple tree, probably killed by their respective spouses for having an affair. Larry Iyer, I'm not sure who that is. The Lonely Hearts Killers, Fernandez and Martha Beck. They pretended to be brother and sister and would set up women on Lonely Hearts columns and take their money and kill them. Carl Panzram. Terrible Criminal. Henri Landru. Belle Gunness. An 1800s female killer. Norman Collins. Jack the Stripper. Edward Kemper, one of the most fearsome serial killers in American history. Paul Knowles again. Patrick Mackey. Raymond Morris. Norris and Bittaker. The Babysitter. Alton Coleman. Gary Christ. Dorothea Puente. The Interstate Murders. Richard Tingler Jr. Mary Beth Tinian again. Coral Watts. The Zebra Killings. Leopold and Loeb, the Thrill Killers. The Jimmy Stewart movie Rope is based on them. Just god-awful, terrible. I mean, both of them were highly intelligent, brilliant young men. Both of them had already graduated college before they were 18. Both were from incredibly rich families, and they, just for the thrill of it, they decided to kill a young boy named Bobby Franks. And they were caught. And on all of their hubris and intelligence, they left a trail of clues behind them that easily had them arrested. Then they easily confessed. Just pathetic. Lizzie Borden. Now, I just watched a new movie about her with oh my gosh, no one's name is coming to me tonight. Chloe Sevigny played her. And Kristen Stewart played the maid, Bridget, and I have to admit, they both did a really good job in the movie. Highly recommend the movie. It was a really good, on-the-dot telling of the story. Not quite like the Christina Ricci version. Much more serious. Laurie Dan. Frank Butler. Australian one. Parker and Home. Oh, you ever seen Heavenly Creatures, I think it was called? Directed by Peter Jackson. These two girls who just lived in a fantasy world. They were codependent on each other, and in their they weaved fantasies that became destructive and eventually resulted in the murder of one of their mothers. They're still alive, and she's changed her name and she writes mystery books now. You can watch a documentary about her. That's what she was rich, so she didn't have to really pay much of a price for what she did. Nathaniel White, Arthur Bishop, Gordon Waterfield again, Clifford Olson, Richard Cottingham, George Hennard, Andre Chikatilo, Kenneth McDuff, Patrick Purdy, John Taylor, Arthur Shawcross, Seaman Wright, Lou Gang, The Axemen of New Orleans, Maids of Le Mans. I remember this one. I think they made a movie about this too. John Phillips, Sonny Bean, Joseph Fallett, Wanda Holloway, Randy Mock, Luigi Longi, Kevin Christensen, Juanita Poole, The McNaughton Rules, here's the checklist, Jake the Barber, Roger Tooney, The Kefauver Bloodbath, Jack Dragner, Los Angeles gangster. In the movie Bugsy, he's a prominent character. So is Mickey Cohen, played by Harvey Keitel. Frankie Carbo probably was the guy who shot Bugsy Siegel. I don't know, he was. If you read about this stuff, there's no doubt it was him. Aladina Fratiano. Yeah, I think that's Jimmy the Weasel. No, maybe it's not. Looks like him though. We saw that. Get Cohen. Mickey Cohen again. Chief Parker. But you ever watch Dragnet? He's constantly referenced. Samuel Rummel. IRS corruption. Johnny Stompanato. Mickey Cohen's bodyguard, ex-Marine, dated Lana Turner, and in a night of abusing Lana Turner, her daughter killed him with a knife. Yep. He also got beat up by Sean Connery too, so if a tough gangster, he had his ass handed to him quite a few times. Lana Turner, Cheryl Crane, she's the one who stabbed Johnny Stompanato. Jerry Geisler, Liz Renee, Kid Twist Relis, one of the Murder Incorporated wackos, William O'Dwyer. There's Lucky Luciano again, Ernest Rupello, Joseph Profaci, one of the crime syndicate leaders, Joe Adonis, also featured in the movie Bugsy, Albert Anastasia, killed in a barber's chair. I've actually seen that barber's chair. It's in the Mob Museum in Las Vegas. Vincent Mangano, Willie Moretti, Willie Sutton, the gentleman gangster, Anna Genovese, she was Vito's. There's also Kitty Genovese as a crime victim. Tommy Luchise, another syndicate leader. Banana Profaci wedding. Frank Scalise. And Frank Scalise again, the murder scene. Joe Barbara. Anthony Corfano. Longy Zwillman. Gerard Vito Catena, Crazy Joey, killed in the Umberto's like restaurant, in New York. He started a mob war. He was put down supposedly by the same guy who killed Jimmy Hoffa. I'm not sure if I believe that. Estes Kefauver, Frederick Wertman, and that is my collection of true crime cards. That's So I don't know. Is it appropriate? Is it tacky? It's educational. Is it any? I guess if it was a book, no one would say anything. If this was a picture book and text, the fact that they're trading cards does make it a little bit iffy on the how appropriate is this. So either way, it is an interesting oddity, and that's what my channel is about, is showing you things that you might not know about. I do the work and show it to you so you don't have to. And if you're interested in this stuff, it's easy to find. But all things considered, it's probably not a collection that you can whip out and show to your prospective employers or whatever. It's a grim gallows humor kind of thing. So I like to study this stuff, but I'm always a little leery when they do take things to this level of triviality, because it in the wrong hands or in the, well, I don't know. I mean, it's probably perfectly safe. I mean, we have Grand Theft Auto and all kinds of video games that are a lot worse, and I don't think it creates psychopaths. But it's an interesting thing to ponder, isn't it? Well, with that, I'll call this video done. Until next time, bye.